Hello everyone and thank you for returning to our channel. In today's session, we'll continue to our exploration of Augustan Age and 18th century literature, focusing on the writers and their works in the second part. Let's dive right in, no more delays. Our next writer is Robert Burns. Robert Burns, often referred to as the Bard of Ayrshire, was a celebrated Scottish poet and songwriter of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. His works, mostly written in the Scots language, remain an integral part of the Scottish and English literary tradition. And here is a list of his important works. First is Auld Lang Syne. Perhaps Burns' most famous work, this song is sung to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the new. It is a global anthem of friendship and goodwill. Next is Tam O'Shanter, a narrative poem that tells the tale of a Tam, a farmer, and his airy encounter with witches and other supernatural elements during the late night ride. Next is To a Mouse, a poem in which Burns reflects on the nature of a human existence and the vulnerability of all creatures. It famously includes the line, "The best laid schemes o' mice and men." Next is To a Louse, a satirical poem in which Burns humorously observes a louse on a lady's bonnet and muses on the equality of all creatures. Next important work is Holy Willy's Prayer, a satirical attack on religious hypocrisy and the practice of public prayer, particularly in the context of Calvinism. Next is Address to Haggis, a lively and humorous poem that celebrates Scotland's national dish haggis. It is often recited during Burns' night celebration. Next is Scots Wahe, a patriotic and rousing song that reflects the spirit of Scottish independence and resistance. Next is The Cotter's Saturday Night, a narrative poem that depicts a Scottish family's simple and pious life. It reflects Burns' admiration for rural values and family life. Robert Burns' works are characterized by their lyrical quality, emotional depth, and strong connection to the culture and people of Scotland. His poetry and song have had a profound impact on Scottish identity and literature and continue to be celebrated and cherished by people worldwide. Next is William Blake. William Blake was a visionary poet, painter, and printmaker known for his distinctive and often mystic works. He was a unique and innovative figure of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. And here is a list of some of his important works. First is Song of Innocence. This collection of poems, combined with Blake's original artwork, explore themes of innocence, purity, and childhood. It includes iconic poems like The Lamb and The Chimney Sweeper. Next is Song of Innocence, a companion volume to Songs of Innocence. This collection delves into darker and more complex themes such as the suffering oppression and social justice. Notable poems include The Tiger and London. Next is The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, a prose and poetry work that explores the dynamic interplay between opposites such as good and evil, reason and passion. It contains Blake's famous proverbs of hell. Next is The Book of Urizen, part of Blake's complex mythology. The Book of Urizen explores themes of creation, restriction, and the nature of human existence. Next is The Book of Loss, another work in Blake's mythology. This book delves into the themes of history, revolution, and artistic creation. Next is Milton, a poem in 2 books, an epic poem that explores the life of the poet John Milton and his spiritual journey. It reflects Blake's admiration for Milton and his own visionary experiences. Next important work is Jerusalem. The emanation of the giant Albion, part of Blake's prophetic works, Jerusalem delves into themes of spirituality, political operation, and the search of personal and societal transformation. Next is the Four Zeus, an ambitious and complex work that forms part of Blake's prophetic books, exploring themes of cosmic and psychological transformation. William Blake's works are known for their visionary and mystic quality, as well as his original engravings and illustrations. He remains a unique and enigmatic figure in English literature and art, revered for his complex symbolism and innovative exploration of spiritual and social themes. Next important writer is Richard Brinsley Sheridan. Richard Sheridan was a significant writer, playwright, and politician of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. He is best known for his wit and the comedies of manners he created. And here is a list of some of his important works. First is The Rivals. This comedy of manners is one of Sheridan's most famous plays. It revolves around the humorous courtship of Lydia's Languish and Captain Jack Absolute, and is known for the character of Mr. Malaprop, who comically misuses words. Friends, remember this. Next is The School of Scandal, often considered Sheridan's masterpiece. This play satirizes the superficiality and gossips of the upper classes. It features witty dialogue and memorable characters like Lady Teazle and Sir Peter Teazle. Next is The Duana, a comic opera with the libretto written by Sheridan. This work was well received during its time and so showcases his skill in the genre. Next important work is A Trip to Scarborough, a comedic adaptation of Sir John Vonberg's The Relapse. This play retains its humor and sharp social commentary. Next is Pizarro, a historical tragedy in the tradition of 18th century British theatre. It was inspired by the German playwright August von Kotzebue's Die Spanier in Peru. Next is The Critic, a satirical play that humorously pokes fun at the theatre and its critic. It includes the character of Mr. Puff, a comically self-important playwright. Friends, Richard Brinsley Sheridan works are celebrated for their sparkling wit, memorable characters, and keen observation of the social and political climate of his time. His comedies of manners in particular have had a lasting impact on English theatre and continue to be performed and studied for their enduring humor and satire. Next is William Godwin. William Godwin was a significant writer and philosopher of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. He is best known for his radical political and philosophical views, as well as his contribution to the development of the novel and books. Here is a list of some of his important works. An Enquiry Concerning Political Justice, one of Godwin's most influential works. This philosophical treatise explores the principle of a political and social justice. It advocates for individual rights, liberty, and a society based on reason. Next is Caleb Williams. This novel is considered one of the earliest examples of the psychological thriller genre. It tells the story of the persecution of the title character, Caleb Williams, by the tyrannical and wealthy Ferdinando Falkland. Next is Memoirs of the author of The Vindication of the Rights of Women, a biography of his late wife and feminist writer Mary Wollstonecraft, author of Vindication of the Rights of Women. Next important work is Fleetwood, a novel that explores theme of domestic unhappiness, social critique and personal transformation. Next is Mandeville, a novel that reflects Godwin's interest in exploring human psychology and the consequences of living in a corrupt society. Next is Thoughts on Man, his nature, productions and discoveries, a collection of essays in which Godwin discusses various philosophical, social and scientific topics. Friends, William Godwin's works reflect his commitment to a radical political and philosophical ideas, advocating for individual liberty and rational thought. While not as widely read today as some of his contemporaries, his contribution to the novel and political philosophy continued to be studied in the context of the intellectual and political climate of the late 18th and early 19th century. Next is Horace Walpole. Horace Walpole was a significant writer and collector of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. He is best known for his novel The Castle of Otranto and for his role in the Gothic literary tradition. Here is a list of some of his important works. First is The Castle of Otranto. Walpole's novel is often considered the first Gothic novel in English literature. It features elements of a supernatural horror, mysterious occurrence, and dramatic events in the medieval setting. Next is The Mysterious Mother, a tragedy play that deals with the themes of incest and revenge, reflecting the dramatic and sensational element often found in a Gothic literature. Next is Historic Doubts on the life and reign of King Richard III, a historical essay in which Walpole expressed doubt about the traditional account of Richard III's reign, contributing to the debate about the historical Richard III. Next is a description of the villa at Strawberry's Hill. Walpole's home, Strawberry's Hill, was a renowned example of a neo-Gothic architecture. This work describes the villa and its collection of art and curiosities. Next is The Castle of Otranto, a Gothic story. This is the second edition of The Castle of Otranto, which Walpole claimed to be a translation of an Italian manuscript. It added to the mystic and allure of the novel. Friends, Horace Walpole's The Castle of Otranto is a foundational work in the Gothic literary tradition. You have to remember this. The novel's blend of horror, mystery, and medieval elements had a profound influence on later Gothic fiction, and it continued to be studied and celebrated for its role in the development of a genre. Walpole's writing and his home at Strawberry's Hill are significant in the context of the 18th century fascination with the Gothic and the macabre. Next is Anne Radcliffe. Anne Radcliffe was a prominent writer of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature, recognized as one of the pioneers of the Gothic novel. Her works are known for their emphasis on mystery, suspense, and supernatural. And here is a list of some of her significant works. First is The Castles of Atheling and Dunbayne, Radcliffe's debut novel in an early example of a Gothic fiction featuring a castle, a damsel in distress, and element of a romance and adventures. Next is A Sicilian Romance. This novel explores themes of love, treachery, and escapes in a Sicilian setting. It incorporates elements of a Gothic melodrama and mystery. Next is The Romance of the Forest. This work follows the fortunes of the young orphan Adeline and features elements of a dark secret, airy landscape and the supernatural. Next is The Mysterious of a Udolpho, often considered Radcliffe's masterpiece. This novel is a quintessential example of a Gothic literature. It tells the story of Emily St. Aubert and her encounters with a mysterious and terrifying occurrence at the castle of Udolpho. Next is The Italian, set in Italy. This novel explores themes of love, religion, and the machination of the Inquisition. It is another significant work in the Gothic tradition. Next is a Gaston de Blondeville. This novel features elements of a supernatural and mystery and was published after Radcliffe's death. And Radcliffe's contribution to the Gothic literature had a profound impact on the genre, inspiring numerous writers and setting the stage for the development of a romantic and Victorian Gothic fiction. Her works are celebrated for their emphasis on atmosphere, psychological error, and the evocation of a mystery and fear. Next important writer is William Collins. William Collins was a significant poet of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature, celebrated for his lyric poetry and his influence on the Romantic poets who followed. And here is a list of some of his important works. First is Ode to Evening. This lyric poem is an evocation of the tranquil and reflective atmosphere of evening. It is characterized by its vivid imagery and sensuous description of nature. Next is Ode on the Death of Mr. Thomason, an elegiac poem dedicated to the memory of James Thomason, the author of the Seasons. Collins mourns Thomason's passing and pays tribute to the poetic achievement. Next is Ode on the Poetical Character. This poem reflects on the nature of the poet and the creative process, celebrating the power of imagination and the role of the poet in society. Next is Ode to Simplicity. In this poem, Collins extols the virtues of simplicity both in poetry and in life, as opposed to artificiality and extravagance. Next is Ode on the Superstition and Highlands, an exploration of the superstition and folklore of the Scottish Highlands. This poem reflects the interest in the Celtic and Gaelic culture that was popular during the 18th century. Friends, William Collins is celebrated for his contribution to the development of English lyrical poetry. His works are known for their rich and imaginative description of nature, the reflection on the role of a poet and their influence on the Romantic poets who came after him. Despite his relatively small body of work, Collins left an indelible mark on the English poetry, and his poems continue to be admired for their beauty and the emotional depth. Next important writer is Thomas Percy. Thomas Percy was a prominent writer and collector of ballads and folklore during the Augustan Age and 18th century literature. He is best known for his compilation and traditional ballads and for his role in preserving the popularizing folk poetry. Here is a list of some of his important works. First is Relics of Ancient English Poetry. This is Percy's most famous work, a collection of traditional ballads and poetry from the British Isles. It played a significant role in reviving interest in traditional folk poetry and had a substantial influence on the Romantic poets such as William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. Next is Northern Antiquities, an English translation of the work of the Icelandic and historian and poet Snorri Sturluson. Percy's translation introduced Norse mythology and sagas to English readers. Next is a key to the New and Old Testament. This work focuses on religious themes and was one of the Percy's early publications. Friends, Thomas Percy's Relics of Ancient English Poetry is celebrated for his role in the preservation and popularization of traditional ballads and folk poetry. His work had a significant impact on Romantic literary movement and contributed to a revival interest in folklore and oral tradition in English literature. Next important writer is Daniel Defoe. Daniel Defoe was a prolific and influential writer of the late 17th and early 18th century, making significant contribution to the Augustan Age. He is best known for his novels, journalism, and his pioneering role in the development of the English novel. And here is a list of some of his important works. Robinson Crusoe. Defoe's most famous work, Robinson Crusoe, is often considered one of the earliest novels in the English language. It tells the story of a marooned sailor's survival on a desert island and his encounters with the cannibals and other challenges. Next is Mole Flanders, a novel that follows the life of adventure of the title character Mole Flanders, a woman who turns to life of crime and deception. Next is A Journal of the Plague Year, a historical account of a fictionalized journal of the Great Plague of London in 1665. Next important work is Captain Singleton. The novel narrates the adventures of a pirate named Singleton, exploring themes of colonialism and adventures. Next is A Tour Through the Whole Island of Great Britain, a travelogue in which Defoe describes his journey through England, Scotland, and Wales. It provides valuable insight into the society and economics of the time. Next is Roxana, the Fortune Mistress. This novel tells the story of Roxana, a woman who seeks to improve her social standing through relationship with men. Next important writer is Henry Fielding. Henry Fielding was a prominent writer and playwright of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature, known for his contribution to the development of the English novel and his satirical and humorous style. And here is a list of some of his important works. First is Joseph Andrews, often regarded as one of the earliest novels in English literature. This work tells the story of Joseph Andrew, a virtuous footman, and his adventures on the road. It is satirical responses to Samuel Richardson, Pamela. The History of Tom Jones, a Foundling. This is perhaps Fielding's most famous work, a picaresque novel. It follows the life and adventures of Tom Jones, a young man of a good nature and questionable birth. It is celebrated for its humor, social commentary, and memorable character. Next is Amelia, a novel that explores the theme of virtue, marriage, and social class. It tells the story of Amelia, the wife of Captain William Booth, and their trials and tribulations. Next is the history of the life of the late Mr. Jonathan Wild the Great, a satirical novel that critiques the notion of the great man and the idea of the criminal as a hero. Next is the Covent Garden Journal, a periodical publication in which Fielding expressed his views on various topics, including theatre, politics, and society. Next is A Modern Husband and The Modern Lady, two plays that satirize contemporary social mores and the complexities of marriage. Friends, Henry Fielding's works are characterized by their wit, satire, and humorous storytelling. He played a crucial role in the development of the novel as literary form, and his novels are celebrated for their realistic and complex characters. Fielding's contribution to English literature continue to be studied and admired for their engagement with the contemporary society and their influence on the development of the novel. Next important writer is Lawrence Sterne. Lawrence Sterne was a significant writer of the Augustan Age and 18th century literature, known for his innovative and experimental narrative style, as well as the satirical and humorous works. Here is a list of some of his important works. First is the life and opinions of Tristram Shandy. This is Tristram Shandy gentleman. This is most important works. Sterne's most famous work and important also. This novel is known for its unconventional narrative structure. It humorously presents the life and opinion of the title character Tristram Shandy in a fragmented and digressive style. It is considered a precursor to the modern novel and is celebrated for its wit and humor. Next is A Sentimental Journey Through France and Italy. This travelogue novel tells the story of a revered Mr. Yorick's sentimental journey through the France and Italy. It explores the idea of sensibility and emotional experiences of the traveler. Next is The Sermons of a Mr. Yorick, a collection of sermons written in Sterne under the pseudonym Mr. Yorick, the character he used in his other works. Next is The Sermons of Mr. Yorick, Volume the 5th, another collection of sermons showcasing Sterne's talent and wit and humor, even in a religious context. Next and last is The History of the Good Worm, Watchcoat, a humorous work that explores the various adventures and misadventures of a watchcoat. Friends, Lawrence Sterne's Tristram Shandy is perhaps his most celebrated work, known for its innovative narrative techniques and satirical humor. His writing had a profound impact on the development of the modern novel, particularly in terms of narrative structure and humor. Sterne's work continue to be studied for their unique style and their contribution to the evolution of the novel as a literary form. Friends, if you enjoy this literary voyage, please give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more episodes. Stay curious and stay tuned for our next exploration of the world of words. Thank you.